Well, I thought rather than starting off with me singing that song, I would let you listen to the real singer, Alanis Morissette, singing "You live, you learn, you love, you learn, you cry, you learn, you lose, you learn." Could be the theme song for this course. Anyway, welcome to week 3, and you'll notice that I have slightly better lighting, thanks to my husband who used to be a theater major and set designer, so he helped me a little bit with the lighting. But I want to talk this week about chapters 3 and 4, and the first few pages of chapter 3 introduce some real and hypothetical college students and the challenges that they face. The critical thing for you as non-hypothetical college students to remember is that no matter what mistakes or wrong decisions you make, you have the opportunity to learn from them, just like Alanis Morissette sings. That is your true education, and that is what critical thinking is all about, learning from everything that happens, good or bad. Toward the bottom of page 45, the authors write about a young man who flunked out of school, but went back a few years later and completed his education. It says he regrets what he calls his lost opportunities. I understand that. I didn't flunk out of school, but I did go to a pretty expensive private university and major in geology. While in school, I put reasonable effort into my schoolwork and did okay, graduating with a B average, and I worked part-time in a lab, but most of my effort went into sports and socializing. You may have noticed that I don't teach geology. I teach English and humanities. I had actually always wanted to be a writer, but I let people talk me out of it when I was in high school. I was good at math and science, so people convinced me that I should study something in those fields to make money, and I could always write on the side. I did love studying geology, but by the time I graduated, I knew pretty well that I did not want to do it for a living. I have spent many years paying off the debt from my geology degree, and at times I have considered that experience a mistake. As a result, for most of my teaching career, I've counseled students that they should follow their passions and not do what people tell them they should, just to make money or to please others. Recently, though, I read an article online, and I have the link in the written notes, that said that we should not always follow our passions, that just because we're passionate about something does not mean we'll be good at it, or that we'll be able to make money at it, or that we'll still enjoy it when it goes from being a hobby to being a career. Why am I telling you all this? Well, you are in college, and you have either made or look forward to making some decisions about what you want to do with your life. Chapter 3 will give you some tools for making sound decisions, but I want to emphasize again that this class is about dealing with uncertainty, with conflicting system questions that don't have one right answer, just better or worse answers depending on the situation. In other words, for some of you, following your passion will lead to happiness. For others, following the money will do it. For others still, you'll try one thing and you'll change your mind, or circumstances will change, and you'll end up doing something else. There is no one right answer. Yes, you will miss some opportunities by choosing one path over another, but the same would be true if you had chosen the other path. This is called opportunity cost, the loss of one opportunity because you chose a different one. Still, if you don't choose anything, you only end up with paralysis. After college, I continued to work in labs because it was all I was really qualified for, even though it wasn't my passion. At one point, however, I found the book, What Color is Your Parachute?, which is a wonderful guide to choosing a career path, and I highly recommend it. I worked through all the exercises, and by the end of it, I was completely fired up to be a fashion designer. Making clothing was something I'd always loved to do, so I resolved to pursue that as a career. That decision gave me direction, and while I was following that direction, a series of events occurred, too many to summarize here, that caused me to go back to school to get a master's degree in English and creative writing, which led me to where I am now, teaching English at North Country Community College. It is true that I have given up at least for the foreseeable future, the opportunity to be a geologist or a fashion designer, in addition to any other field I might have pursued. But I have gained a meaningful career that allows me to live in my favorite place in the world. The upshot is that we have to make the best decisions we can with the information we have at the time, knowing that at some point in the future, new information may make us change our decision. Critical thinking is not just about making the initial decision, but it's also about remaining open to that new information that might change our perception of the situation. As good old Anonymous writes on page 59, only gods and fools never reconsider. Another important element of critical thinking is clarifying the terms being used in a discussion, debate, or document, making sure we're all on the same page, or speaking the same language. This is what Chapter 4 is about, but there is an example in Chapter 3 that kind of illustrates why, excuse me, why it can be a problem if we don't clarify what we're talking about. The Thinking Critically box on page 55 shows percent of change in salaries over the indicated time period and not the salaries themselves. If you looked at this graph without realizing that, you might be inclined to believe that women make a lot more money than men do, which is definitely not the case. While women's salaries have changed for the better more than men's have over this time period, our actual salaries are still only 77% of men's on average. And I have a link in the written notes that you can follow to look up that information. A lot of what you are doing, or are going to do in college, is to learn new language and terminology that will allow you to express ideas with precision. Introductory courses in psychology or biology, among other fields, are really foreign language courses, in which you learn new words or new meanings for old words. For example, we all know what we mean when we talk about someone's personality. But what is a personality disorder? That phrase has a specific meaning in psychology that most of us would not know without learning that language. We all know the word average, but when you take statistics, you'll discover that there are different kinds of averages, all of which tell you different things. Even in this class, we've already redefined the word argument. In my English classes, I talk about how using proper grammar, spelling, format, and documentation are really part of joining the academic club. Learning the languages and conventions of these different disciplines is what gets you in the clubhouse. It's the secret password. If you think of these introductory courses with all the terms you have to memorize in this way, maybe it will make those flashcards a little more exciting. You're not just memorizing meaningless words, you're earning your way into an exclusive club. Hopefully, once you get into the clubhouse, you'll be able to intelligently discuss things with your peers using what will now be your common language, as well as your critical thinking skills. One final note about Chapter 4. If you are a religious Christian or Jew, you may have some trouble with the content of the chapter. Just don't take it as an attack or an attempt to change your beliefs. Simply read it open-mindedly, consider the points made, and decide whether to let them into your worldview or not. It is always your decision to decide what to believe or what to do, based on your own knowledge of the world and your own critical thinking. In the written notes, I have links to 2 of the videos from the reading, Lewis Black and George Carlin. One is referred to on page 74 and the other on page 78. This week's assignments are to read chapters 3 and 4, pick any of the group discussion or critical thinking questions from the chapter, and answer the question to post on the discussion page. Also, go back and read the responses to your own postings from last week and continue the conversation. And lastly, you're going to have your first graded writing assignment due. Writing assignment 1 using the holistic critical thinking scoring rubric. And there is an assignment sheet in course documents, or if it is not there yet, it will be there very shortly. That will tell you exactly what to do. But as always, please feel free to ask me lots of questions. Always make sure to look at the written notes as well as listening to my videos, because I often forget things, and it's good for you to see them written down. Anyway, I hope you all have a wonderful week, and I will see you on the discussion page.